I already did one of these once today, and I didn't keep it. I hung on to it for a little while and was trying to see. It's like, there's nothing really exciting in this one. I talked about how today's been kind of one of those days where everything's just felt off and been kind of in a funk. And well, I think things have sufficiently switched since then. So to start with, my brother interrupted my normal easing into the day routine to see if I could print something off for him, because they don't have a printer currently. I'm going to apologize in case you heard my dog fart just then. Thanks, Taz. Anyway, they don't have a printer, so every now and then they'll email us stuff to have us print off, and then they'll pick it up. Those are for like mailing addresses and stuff. And he had a couple things that he wanted me to print off, so I did. And then after that, okay, so I do respite care with my niece, because she's autistic, and so the company that I do that through, I have like one contact person that I talk to more than anything, and then I have like other stuff that I have to do for them, but she's usually the one that sends reminders and asks me if there's anything, or when there's something that I need to have updated. Like, I had my car registration, the car insurance, and my license all in a short span of time, getting ready to expire. So today I sent her 2 of those things. My license I went to get handled on Friday, but obviously I won't get the new copy of it for however long that takes. But thank God it's a new picture. So that alone is worth it. I was kind of actually at the point where I would have considered it, even if it wasn't due to expire this summer, or here in a couple weeks, my birthday, just because it was so bad. But anyway, so I got that handled. So I sent her the 2 things that I did have, and I still have yet to do the other thing, but she sent me a message on, I think, Friday last week, asking me if I knew where the quarterly meeting on the 17th was going to be held at, and it's like, I haven't heard anything about the quarterly meeting. Now, in hindsight, if that would have registered correctly, it would have been, well, it's always at their house. But I did not register anything. Everything has been so chaotic with my dad in and out of the hospital over the past week and a half, I guess, and like there's been more drama on that end. Well, more questionability on health things. So, kind of been preoccupied with that. So anyway, I missed the part where she said it was on the 17th. It just didn't register. And then today, she sent me a message to confirm their address so she could make sure she was at the right place at the right time. It's like, wait a second, what time's this meeting? And she said at 1, and I said, for some reason, it did not even register that today was the 17th until she was asking me about this. So I had all weekend that it could have dawned on me, and it just didn't. So yeah. So I ended up, I got the message, I think, for when and all that stuff that it was actually happening at 1 o'clock today, like at 12:30. So I went ahead and walked the dogs around the side lot, and it's just this little short one. We didn't even go 3/10 of a mile today, so we'll probably maybe do a little more here in a few minutes since it was so short. But I went over to my brother's house, and I was just kind of feeling like I feel like everything's been in such a fog lately that connecting to things actually happening is not real easy these days. And obviously a lot of that is me because I choose to disconnect and I choose not to engage with the negativity around me in the, my current realm of existence. Trying not to let those negative tendencies to take over for me like they used to very easily. So I've been disconnecting from it. And that has helped me to feel like everything's just kind of been in a fog. And then, of course, just with the nature of how things have changed for me in particular, and, the health stuff with my dad and my grandparents, it's just has felt all over the map. So I did this last video that I just went ahead and deleted a few minutes ago when I realized I was going to be doing another one, because I don't remember how I started it. I deleted, because I was just in a fog, and like the whole thing was just, I felt like in a fog. I didn't really know what to say about anything. I think I just talked for like 38 minutes with nothing real big to talk about. So then Gracie was here for a while, and we were hanging out in my office, and I pulled some cards that I just felt like this deck had a message for me. So I went ahead and pulled some cards out of it and was writing down what the meanings were in the guidebook. I'll never retain anything. As much as I try to really connect with the cards and stuff, it's like there's a guidebook to go to. I can always go to the guidebook. But like the journal that I write in regularly, I try to keep track of things in there too, so when I refer back, I don't have to go back to the guidebook all over again. So yeah. So the other thing that I realized I was going to talk about, and it came up, I remembered it while I was going through those cards, and I don't remember if there was anything specifically that reminded me. But at 4 o'clock this morning, well, probably closer to 5, I woke up and was going to feed the dogs, and the first thing I did was look at my phone, because I think I had it charged, and I just tend to do that, see where it's at as far as like the binaural beats things that I listen to at night and all that, figure out what time it is, that good stuff. And I saw I had a message on Facebook Messenger. It's like, who's this from? And I don't respond to them, but I'll at least see who it's from, and usually it's, this friend sent a picture, or this friend responded to something I said, or whatever. This one was a friend that I haven't talked to in a really long time. And he was one of my housemates my senior year in undergrad. So we are, like 18 years ago. So that year, I connected with this group through Campus Crusade for Christ. That, I was looking for another place to live because the place that I stayed in my junior year, I don't remember what the story was with that, but I wasn't going to go back there. I don't remember if, I think it was just everybody was moving out, and I don't know if the landlords were continuing what they were using it for or what, I don't know. Anyway, I wasn't staying there, so I, just kind of reached out on the Mass Crusade list to see if anybody had any thoughts or suggestions. And this one guy responds, and he says something about to let it weird him out that he's a dude and I was looking for females to live with. But he said they had some rooms at the place he had lived for junior year, because I think we were in the same grade or same year in school. So he wasn't going to live there the coming school year that I was looking for a place. But the place he suggested, it was one of the old founding family mansions, and founding families for the school, and they had donated it to the American Baptist Association in the 60s, and they turned it into a housing ministry. And he said it was a mixed group. There was one end of the house, they had a room that the guys shared, and then there were 3 rooms at the other end of the house. This was all upstairs for the rooms and everything, where the girls stayed. So I connected with them and found this place, and it was awesome. It was the last year for it to be there. Then they had so many issues with it because I couldn't afford the upkeep. I have awesome memories from that place. My first day that I moved in, there was a praying mantis on the bathroom ceiling. There were squirrels in the walls. That was creepy. Raccoons in the attic. At a couple points in the school year, we had a couple bats that were flying around loose. One day I came home from classes, and one of my housemates, one of the guys, was he said, "Oh, there you are." Like, gets up and starts walking off. It's like, there, who is? And he said, the bird. There was a bird that got in the house. And he was chasing it, and I run up the stairs behind him just in time to see this thing go into my room and hop across my bed. It's like, ah, shit. So fun things. I think we caught like 14 mice that year. Yeah, that was a whole thing. And then in the spring, we started out with this leak in the upstairs kitchen, which was the girls' kitchen, as we called it. But we had like the actual kitchen with a stove and microwaves and all that fun, and the table and all that stuff. And then there was another one that had another refrigerator and counter space, cabinets and stuff, and a sink. We had ants at one point. That was exciting. But no, in the upstairs, the main kitchen, one day we go in there and there's a drip, and it had been raining a lot, and there's a tree right outside that part of the house, and I think it dripped right onto that part of the house. So there was a drip. And then, like, within a couple days, it was this trickle. And within a very short span of time, it was a whole freaking waterfall. And it was, like, raining outside, and it was just, like, pouring through that hole in the ceiling. And it was that part was at an angle, so it was just kind of disregard my blue finger from scratching my head. It does that after I dye my hair. The first couple days, I can still scratch hair dye out until I wash it like 2 or 3 times, and then it kind of eases up a bit. But anyway, so yeah, so then there was like this big flood in the kitchen, and exciting things. But anyway, this guy was from that school year. He was one of the housemates. There were, in the fall semester, there were 4 guys. One of them, he was married and had a family and wasn't there except through the week. So we really didn't have much of a connection with him. But then the other 3 lived in this big shared room that I think could have had 6 to 7 when it was at max capacity. And then we had 7 girls when we were at max capacity, because we had 2 rooms had space for 2, and then the 3rd room had space for a 3rd. And the first semester, all the rooms were, or all of the space was filled. Second semester, I think at least 2 moved out. So spring semester I ended up by myself, which was okay, except for the one night that something screamed on the wall, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, I think, and I woke up and I was just kind of like this. It was like, I don't know what that was. That was terrifying, and I was kind of afraid to move. But I had this fiber optic Christmas tree that was still lit, and it's like that. That was the light I had on in there. It's like, that was creepy, and I don't even know what's going on. Yeah, because when I was by myself, I tended to sleep with either the TV on. You know, I frequently would play Ice Age on repeat, the first one, and fall asleep to that. But it was just creepy otherwise. You know, we used to joke about that there was a room in the basement that had a black ceiling, and another one that had like black part of the way down the walls, and then there was like this really creepy crawl space type thing that, like, in the basement you'd have to climb up to it to go into it, but it was creepy, and I used to just joke around and tell people that's where we kept the bodies. Or where the original family kept the bodies. Yeah, that place was exciting. I enjoyed it very much, but in the summer I stayed in it with 2 other girls who were just there for a couple months, and it was creepy as hell. And I would you know, I would lock myself in as soon as I got there, and you know, I try to be back before the sun went down, and I would take this path straight upstairs to my room. You know, I had to go in around a couple of corners, and then up to the stairs, and go around, and then down the hall. And as soon as I was locked in, you know, I stayed in the room that was right next to the kitchen. Like, my bathroom was connected to the path to the kitchen, so it's like I stayed in that room, and if I had to go, I would go out that door, and I would go right back in and lock myself back in. And it was creepy as hell. But anyway, that's the year that this roommate was from. And the last time I talked to him, I was working at, I just started at one of the group homes that was in the, this Indianapolis location. It was kind of a shady area. And I mean, that's irrelevant, but but I was working there, and he and I would talk on, I think, Facebook Messenger a little bit, and not much. He was trying to get in as a firefighter, and I think he did the volunteer thing for a while. And his big focus was always, finding his wife and having a family. So, I get that. I rocked that kind of concern for a while too. However, mine did not go favorably. His did. But, he's been off of Facebook for a while. So this morning he sends me this message, and it was pretty generic, and I knew he probably sent it to a bunch of people, just with the way it was worded, and nothing was specifically mentioned. But I read his message and it's like, okay, because he's apologizing for not being a better friend and blah blah blah. And then I went back to sleep after I fed the dogs and forgot about it until I was pulling the cards tonight. So then I finally responded, and I was like, dude, I just thought you were on a hiatus from Facebook. He's like, well, I am. It's like, okay. And he told me he's on Instagram. It's like, okay, well, that one I have not been on since January. And Facebook, I'm on less than an hour a week. So not real reliable on those either right now. But I'm on Messenger, and that's mainly because I don't think they wanted me to be able to sign out of that one. I looked extensively for a while and didn't see any option to log out, so I just have been on it and just not really talking to anybody on it, except for when it comes up. Ongoing ordeals. Just got interrupted for like 10 minutes because my mom discovered I was out here. She said, why are you sitting out here? It's like, because I'm trying to get my dog to leave me alone at one place. Taz, shut up. Stop. And, well, then she proceeds to kick the ball down the ramp for a Gidget, so that's part of what I was trying to avoid getting started up out here. And so, yeah, she just did not help that. What was I talking about? Oh, the roommate. So, on the roommate end, he was like, feeling like a bad friend because he let things go and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I just figured you were taking a break, dude. No, no big deal. That got a life in the way, and social media didn't line up to it. That's no big deal. I totally get that, and I'm totally trying to be separated from the Facebook or from the social media end of things as much as possible right now, as well, just because it's so easy to get pulled into other people's drama and negativity on there. Taz, no. Hey, come here. Oh, crap. So, anyway, my mom came down here to see, apparently there's some ordeal where Dad said something snarky, pissed off my sister-in-law, and they left in a hurry, and she made a comment about something on top of being said yesterday, blah, blah, blah. That was not the drama I knew about yesterday, but apparently I'm supposed to look into that. It's like, I don't want to. So, yeah. Anyway, so this guy, it's no big deal. And it's like, okay, well, he asked how I'm doing. It's like, all right, been kind of having a weird day today, in a little bit of a fog, but not bad. And I said, I've been working on doing some healing work for the past several months, so that's been good. And then he starts in on, because mind you, one of the things that I thought when I saw his message this morning was how everything, it's been brought to my attention time and again that everything that is going on for me right now and everyone that comes into the picture serves a very real purpose for my current path. So it's every time someone else shows up, it's like, okay, what's happening here? Taz, no! Tazzy! So yeah, he started talking about, mind you, we were housemates at the Baptist house. So it was the American Baptist Association branch. The only thing that was relevant with that year was we had weekly Vespers meetings where, the house pastor would give a little Bible study, and then one of the local churches would bring in dinner for us that night, and that was the extent of it. Didn't care what we did on our own time or anything like that. It was fine, freedom. But still, it was in my trying to be a good Christian girl, if you will. And so he starts telling me what he's been up to, and talking about been a firefighter for 17 and a half years, 10 of which has been full-time firefighter. Before that, he was a volunteer. Been married for so many years, 10 or so, I think, and then has a daughter who's 7.5, I think. She didn't really say age, she just had a daughter. But he was talking about doing ministry stuff, and wanting to do specifically like ministry with children and like firefighters who have some kind of trauma or grief, counseling type stuff. That dog. Tazzy! Taz! Yep. The problem is he runs over here and then gets right up in my face. Okay, didn't get all the way up here that time, but he was close. Up, there we are. Yep, I know. I got your attention. And you think that means love. Ugh. Yuck. Got slurped. But yeah, he's clearly still on the ministry path. I was like, well, all about the healing. Yep, he lost his mom a few years ago. They were always really super close. So grief on that end and whatnot. But I said, yeah, I exited the church after I got my divorce and realized how much all my bad beliefs led me to the situation that I'd been in. And was finding spirituality on my own terms now. And he said something, well, as long as it brings you closer to Jesus in some way and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I had no problems with Jesus. I said, how do I say it? Something about what I feel is more aligned to his actual message. And pursuing that path. And then it was just kind of a disconnect. Like that was, well, I got to go put my daughter to bed. It's like, well, 7:30, but okay. Hey, whatever anybody does, whatever. But yeah, it was just, I kind of was thinking like maybe his purpose at this point on my path was to see if I am still committed to the path that I'm on. That's the path that doesn't involve church, and yeah, I'm very committed to that. And on that end, I was thinking that, okay, like, we all have things we're here to do. And the church, if it was always moving from its pursuing of its highest purpose, it's something where people are supposed to go there and be able to get closer to God and to worship in some kind of way, right? So I'm very much in agreement with that mission. But I feel like there is, at a certain extent, when it starts to become something else, it really becomes more of a sort of cancer for the rest of us. Like, we're all part of the divine body. And we all have the thing we're here to do. And the church's thing that it would be here to do is help show people the way to God. But there are a lot of those people who end up infringing on other people's beliefs and running over the top of their boundaries. This is one of those big issues I've had with my dad the entire time I've been doing these videos. The boundaries thing has been the hugest, because he believes in what the church is saying, that everybody else is supposed to. And if you don't, then you're going to hell. But, quite frankly, there are way too many of us on this planet for any one path to be the only way. It's just not realistic. And when it becomes a thing to try to force people into falling in line with certain belief systems, I've talked about, like, that whole Crusades thing, and how the idea was converting people to Christianity, but yet then how many people did they slaughter in the name of Christianity because they wouldn't choose, or they didn't agree to come willingly to their way? And I made a joke to my brother about how there in town there's this little vape shop, and right next to it one day appears a church or a worship center of some sort. It's like because it's just like a parasite. You never know where it's going to pop up when where any of the fun is trying to happen. But I honestly, I kind of feel like it's more of a cancer in a sense, not what it is meant to be. If it was something to genuinely bring people to God and not obsessively focusing and trying to dictate what that looks like, it would be another story. But since dictation and this is the only way has taken over, it's kind of like a cancer, because it's imposing in ways that it's not meant to be that thing. It's not supposed to be something that abuses people and forces them to try to fit into a certain mold that most of us were not designed to fit into. I have no problem embracing the fact that I'm very much not supposed to fit in that mold, and when I tried to, it went very wrong for me. But even feeling it on that end and understanding when I was a part of it, and choosing behavior that was not agreeable. Because that was what I was being told by the pastors and whatnot that I had to do to, save the world. And okay, on that end, I was involved in a few different groups, different denominations, trying to test other things out, see where I fit. In undergrad, I didn't find any of those. But I checked out a Southern Baptist group. I was pretty, trying to get another splinter in my foot. I was pretty active with them, went on a mission trip with them and whatnot. And it was connection. It was a group of friends. And we usually had fun together. And the mission trip was awesome. We went to Panama City Beach, and we gave rides to drunk kids, and that was the time. You have them in the car, you can talk, or in the van, you talk to them about Jesus and all that fun stuff. And then in the mornings we would go to this place, and we'd invite people to it as well, that we were giving rides to, or just whatever. Invite people for pancakes, and for breakfast we would have pancakes for them, and they were really good pancakes. My favorite thing about the trip was I would get up really early. Like the entire week it just happened. It's like we're here at the beach, and the place we stayed was within walking distance to the beach. Like it was just like over this hill and straight to the sand. And the area we were at, there were no other people. So I love to get up and go sit on the beach for a while. And my mom's messaging me. Yeah, I just saw the messages pop up. She'll have to wait. So, hi sister. This is my sister. This is Holly. Yeah, so I would go sit on the sand and frequently call my mom and be like, hey, guess where I'm at? And let her listen to the ocean. So yeah, that was fun. And spend time with my music and writing, and I loved it. It was amazing. And there ended up being this other guy from our group that had the same idea that I did, and he would go down there and we hung out a few mornings, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, had a little crush on him for a little while, and it's short-lived, but still. It was just like really cool part to the trip. But aside from that, there was I think a Methodist group. The people in my Bible study in the dorms, I think we would usually go to like a Free Methodist church, and of course the church I went to at home was United Methodist, and then I lived at the Baptist house, which was an American Baptist. I checked out a Pentecostal church at one point. That was interesting. And just random odds and ends. If somebody would go with me, then we go. The Pentecostal thing, I think I tried that one my freshman year, and I went with a girl that I graduated high school with. Went to school forever together, and happened to connect there, and she was like cross country and track, and one day we went on a run, and I went all the way around campus and didn't have any issues with it. It was like I'd been running forever, until I realized that I had not been running forever, and then I got in my head, and it became a problem after that. But yeah, we went together to that one. Yeah, it's fine, but didn't stick. But the ones that did stick were the Southern Baptist one, and It was mainly because there were people my age that I had a lot in common with. Yeah. Now, the problem on that end was I had this friend who I met in marching band my freshman year. And I love this dude. He was an awesome human. The biggest thing was, like, I knew he was gay, and he would talk about his friend, and his friend that would come to class on occasion, and just because it was a lecture hall and he could, so we'd sit there together, and wasn't a problem. Except for I had these other friends that were in my head with this message about how it's so wrong and blah blah blah, and like the conversations, like I was genuinely trying to understand and trying to make sense of what I was learning from one and what I knew to be true for the other. Like Nate was a great dude, and we weren't like super especially close, but we're decently good friends, and we had these psych classes together, and we'd hang out, stuff like that, and we talk a lot online, in the AOL instant messaging back then, and there was a lot of me trying to understand within the context that it was being beat over my head, and I don't feel like he necessarily felt judged by me, but I feel like it probably did not help that I was so stuck on trying to understand how these two things fit in the same world. The one where I had no problem believing that that he didn't choose to be gay. That was never an issue, because I have one of my cousins is, and I knew when he was a baby that he was going to be the one that was, just whatever reason, I just knew it. And because I knew it at that point, that meant to me that it wasn't a choice for him. So like just trying to navigate through this dynamic and understand was kind of a pain in the ass. And for that reason, it was always kind of a blocked connection, because I was awfully in my head trying to understand this dynamic where one thing could say that this is so terribly wrong and you'll go to hell and blah blah blah, and the other one is the fact that it's not a choice if you can know that about somebody when they are an infant. But I still didn't do him any favors all the same. And that, I always had a great deal of respect for him, like whenever we would connect, and it's always like we wanted to be closer than we actually were because I had this block that wasn't letting me understand this connection or whatever. And so after undergrad, after we graduated, we were still Facebook friends, of course, and we'd check in with each other periodically on the messenger, and then I started dating somebody in December of that year after we graduated, and then we were together for 4 years. When we broke up, I don't remember if it was at the actual breakup or if it was at the time that he said he needed to take 2 weeks where we just gave each other space and didn't talk, so he could decide what he was doing. One of those 2 times, and I'm wanting to say it was going into the 2-week break, I ended up finding out that Nate had committed suicide. And that, I think, the breakup was traumatic in and of itself for a whole lot of reasons, but I felt like Nate's death was especially traumatic because I did care about him a lot, and whereas I wanted us to be better friends, I was still blocked because of all this bullshit that was coming at me from this church group. And I didn't even fully realize it at the time. But I've always had some resentment to that group for that specific connection, the way that went. It's like, because he could have been a really good friend, and I know he probably would have been better as a friend than a lot of those connections that I had in there, because I always felt like I had to hold back a part of myself, and I think that wouldn't have been a thing with him. So in that sense, that's one of those things where trying to impose this ideology and mindset onto somebody it clearly does not work for, did nothing productive and resulted in this guy's eventual suicide. Yeah. To that extent, that's where the church very much becomes a type of cancer, because it's not tending to the health and well-being of the general population. Only the ones that are willing to jump in and conform to the ways they're preaching, the ways the church deems acceptable, and and that varies depending on which church you go to. So, and everybody wants to think theirs is the only way. I had a whole freaking when I was a chaplain assistant in the military, I had this book that was some kind of guidebook to the various denominations of the world, of the country anyway. And there was a shit ton of them, and that right there, and most of those will say theirs is the only way, and if you venture off of those, then then you're going to hell or whatever. That's bullshit, and that is where, like, okay, excuse me, I feel like okay, on that end, there is a time and a place for the church thing, and there are many that are benefited from the church sphere, but clearly not all of us. And wish I had my water out here. Clearly not all of us. And I think that's the big thing about why I've lived the life that I have and come to the decisions that I have throughout that time. When I was talking to that friend earlier, he was one with the American Baptist Association. I don't remember his outside of that group. He didn't go to the Southern Baptist stuff. He seemed to think a lot of the stuff that they did was a bit of a joke. So, at the same time, he's got his own beliefs and all that stuff, which is fine and dandy. But I feel like, him reaching out like he did today was kind of a means of the universe nudging me to see. I don't necessarily know that I want to call it my committal to what I do believe or what I am coming up to, or if necessarily maybe it's more to challenge me to see, like, with these past friends and the past beliefs that I had, and they're still in this world, am I still standing strong in what I'm learning and believing these days versus, when somebody shows up, do I suddenly revert back into old habits? And no. That was not even an option. In fact, I thought about it, and I told him, it's like, I exited the church and I have no interest in going back to it ever. And he said the thing about, well, that's good as long as it brings you closer to Jesus or whatever. And it's like, I definitely value the church experience for those that it does work and it doesn't prove to be a cancer for. And I think he's a good example of somebody it probably works for. But I'm more of an example of somebody it definitely did not work out for, because it led me to a situation where I ended up trapped in a toxic connection that, because I heard so much that divorce is bad, I had a hard time getting out of. And that was the big thing, is when, it felt pretty abrupt, so maybe it was to put his daughter to bed. I don't know. Maybe it was because he just didn't like what I had to say. Entirely possible. But either way, that was the end of our conversation for today anyway. And he said he invited me to reconnect with him on Instagram if ever I get back on there. And I probably will, just not till we get some more stuff figured out. Don't want to connect with that twin flame energy before the time, because that, I mentioned the other day that it made when he randomly showed up on like the stories at the top of my Facebook, I had like this half sick feeling, and then realizing that was because I don't feel like I am currently where I want to be, and where I need to be for that connection to be able to happen. I still have work to do, and that's a whole lot of patience on this whole path, and that's a big part of why. But yeah, but not because I suddenly disagree with any of that. I absolutely believe this twin flame journey is very much my journey, because I wouldn't be here where I am today without it. And this whole healing process, I probably would have quit like 1,000 more times on if I didn't have that nudging me to keep going. So then when I encountered his 3D self energy, then it was just like, it just don't feel right, because I'm not where I need, or where I'm supposed to be before we can actually connect in the physical realm of experience. So yeah, but like with the former housemate. It's like, I'm glad the church stuff works for him and for the other people that it does work for. But those aren't my people. Those aren't the people that I'm here for. I'm here for, the ones that don't fit into that paradigm, to show them that healing is possible. And yes, it's very difficult, very hard, but it can be done. And needs to be done in order to get to the better things on the other side of it. And those are my people. Anyone who's had like the addictions and to whatever, the chronic suicidal ideation and stuff like that, the ones who have been many times hurt and intentionally wounded by the ones who claim to be good, God-fearing people. And I feel like my sharing my story also shows that I do believe in God very much. I just don't believe in the church version of it. And I think it's something far beyond what the church wants to allow it to be. And, I kind of had the sense of, when I was in church, it felt like they had God in a box, and you had to check off all these certain check boxes to fit the saved and acceptable stuff, and I didn't fit those. But I know from my daily experiences that I am very much guided on this journey, and I am not alone. And if me being happy over silly things like numbers, as it's 57 at the top, which was one of Mike's numbers, and it was just 717 in the minutes and seconds a second ago, or a few seconds ago. They're always around at the right time, and when I look them up, they always have a relevant message. So yes, I do believe the universe converses with me very much, and is guiding me all along this path. And I think that's a big part of why, like, me doing these videos, the times I've tried to urge the the universe and my angels, whatever, to help me figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, well, it's a matter of co-creation. This is what do I want from this experience? What do I want this to be for? What good do I want to come out of it? And the biggest thing on that end is I want to help people who are hurting to realize that there is healing. And I feel like, honestly, that's more in line with the Christ message that the church tries to claim it's out for, and yet at the same time causes most people a disconnection from the Christ message. I think he showed that healing is possible, and that was the purpose. And then the powers that be at the time, the Bible was getting put together, manipulated it, and, as my brother said the other day, basically bastardized it to be something that it was not, and make him something that is unattainable to the rest of people, because, quite frankly, people are easier to control and manipulate if they're afraid. And all you got to do is look at the world and see that. You got one political group talking about how terrible the other one is, and how they're out to destroy freedoms and all blah blah blah, and destroy the family dynamic and all this crap. And the other side is, you know, whatever they say on. I hate politics. I don't pay attention to them. The ones that I do hear is because my family's very much, trumpeting. You know, and they say, it's like you can't say anything one way or another without the one side automatically wanting to demonize you and make you a part of the other side. But I'm neither side. I think they're all assholes. And, you know, politicians are only out for themselves anyway. So yeah, that's more my stance. But I'm for the people who've been fucked over by the systems in place and want something better. You know, that's my whole thing. That's why I'm here, because that's also what I want. You know, and we can co-create things to be much better for all of us. But we got to get beyond the ones that want to doom and gloom us into damnation one way or another. It's like we don't need a hell to go to when we die, because this physical plane, this 3D realm of existence is very much hell, because we think we're separate from everything that is, and we're not. You know, we're all very much a part of it, and you know, we all have a specific role for why we're here and what we're here to do. And as long as they can keep us from wanting that and pursuing that, then they can keep us as slaves to the systems already in place, because we don't know who we are. You know, which is, again, why I will always say protect your boundaries and don't let everybody just all willy-nilly come in and run over the top of you. You know, you have to know what's yours and what's not. Otherwise, energetically, people will latch on and pull you down. You know, I watched I think it was a Nordic Light tarot where she talked, Nordic Light or White Feather, one of those two. They were talking about, like with hermit crabs that you see in those cases at, like, shops at the beach or whatever. You know, if one is by themselves, they can climb all the way to the top of the cage and go climbing across the top. But if there's a bunch of others around them, they all start grabbing onto that one and pulling it back down so it can't get out of it. It's like, that's very much this existence. You know, and energetically we want to help others find healing, but we're not here to heal everybody. We are here to heal the part of the puzzle which is us, and which is ours to do the work to heal. And beyond that, you know, it just gets muddy when we let other people's energies influence us and latch on like they do. You know, and especially those that like running over the top of boundaries and disrespecting them and, you know, popping up churches where next to the places that exist for somebody to have fun. Somebody likes to vape, oh, let's go piss on their party and go put a church next to them. Make them feel bad, make them know they're bad people for doing this thing. Anyway, off that soapbox. This video has been all over the map. It all started because I got interrupted halfway through for like 10 minutes and was trying not to lose the video, and somehow managed to not lose the video, and here we are. And now my mom keeps sending me messages trying to get me to answer things. It's like, you know, and that goes right back into that. I'm trying to do a thing. Granted, she doesn't know about it, but energetically, she's trying to pull me back into her little world. And yeah. So anyway, here we are. And my gadget's staring at me now with their ears all back. I'm gonna call it here. As always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see you later.